So here's a little story for you. I am just minding my own business, coming home after a long, hard day at work, and I walk into my living room and I notice this terrifying monstrosity sitting on a shelf. Naturally, I asked my roommate where she came from, and she said that they found this doll sitting outside. And now when they found the doll, it was covered in dirt and wearing an extremely dirty and cheesy looking dress. And so I cleaned off the dirt. I said to myself, this little angel is just waiting to be taken care of. So as you can see, I cleaned off the dirt, fixed up the battery pack in her back, make sure she's all clean and new, little baby, and now I'm gonna make a dress for her. Now I am adapting this pattern from a larger pattern for a sweater that I found on YouTube, which I can link if you want to see that pattern, but yeah, here it is. Okay, starting off with materials. I'm going to be using an E or a 3.5 millimeter crochet hook, white, pink, and yellow. It says Mira Handcrafts. It came in a big pack that I got for Christmas, so I don't normally use this kind of yarn, but I thought it would be appropriate for the setting. So to start off, we're going to do a slip knot, and we're just going to chain. You know what? I haven't decided how many chains is going to be appropriate for her, so I'm just going to go until it looks like the right size, and then I'll come back to you. Okay, so looking at this baby's torso, I determined that 29 stitches was going to be about accurate to cover the hem. For the purposes of, evenness, I'm just going to make it 30 stitches, and then you want to do actually 31, because the 31st stitch is going to be the first, technically, chain one of this row. And so I am going to do double crochets. If you want it to be a little bit tighter, then you can do single or even half double crochets. I tried that, but because these materials are so tiny, it's just easier for me to work with double crochets. So I will put one double crochet in each of these stitches, and then I will meet you when I get back to the end. Okay, so I currently have 30 stitches, and it's gonna look a little weird and curled up because it's so thin, but it will start to flatten out a bit as you get on the rows. So now that I am ready to move on to the next row, I'm going to chain one, and this is because I am doing double crochets. If you're doing single crochets, I usually don't chain at all, but that's up to your preference. And then we're just going to go right into that first stitch. Get back on there, fucker. All you have to do is just keep doing rows of one stitch in every single one all the way across the row, so you should have 30 stitches in every single row. And if you want to change colors, I'll be doing a little stripey pattern, so I'll be changing colors soon, and I'll come back to show you how I do that, if that's something you want to do. If you want to just keep it all one color, then that's your prerogative, and you are certainly welcome to just skip past that part of the video. But I will be doing this, and I will be back when I'm ready to switch my colors. Alright, so we are back at the end of the row. I've decided on 5 rows for this stripe. So I'm going to wrap up the last stitch of this row. Okay, so now that I've wrapped that up, there are a couple different ways to switch colors. Here's how I do it. So I'm going to cut it, I'm going to give it a little bit of a tail. And now I'm going to take the next color. So first you put it through, and I take it like I'm starting a new project, and I pull it through. A little chain one. Have your first double crochet, and you're just going to keep on going as normal. And so I like to weave the tails in as I go along. So the tails are right here. I'm going to go through, and I'm going to make sure basically you're stitching on top of those tails, and that is going to make it so that they're sort of tucked in there. And especially with how tight these stitches are, that's going to help so that you won't have to worry about weaving them in later or trying to tie them off. So that's how you change your colors. And again, you're just going to continue doing 1 crochet in every single stitch. And I haven't decided how many rows I want to do, so I'm just going to do it until I feel like it's an adequate size for the doll, and then I'm going to come back. Alright, so now I've finished the first part of the torso, and I decided to go with 4 stitches for the last stripe instead of 5. And I've chained 1 and turned just like with all my other rows. So what we're going to do, the baby's head is kind of big, so I'm going to give it a pretty good size neck hole. So we're going to do 5 stitches and 5. And so now we're going to skip the next 20 stitches. So what you're going to do, you're going to do 20 chains. So just go like that. 1, 2, 3, 19, 20. Then you're going to count 20 stitches. So we got 1, 2, 3. 20, so this is 20, so you see here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 extra. So what we're going to do, we're going to do a double crochet into the 5th stitch from the end. It's going to try to twist on you a little bit, so you gotta be careful to keep it still. And then just do 4 more stitches. So the way you should have it, you should have 5 stitches here, chain 20, and then do and then there should be another stitch in the last 1 stitch in each of the last 5. And this is going to be the neck hole that is going to fit through. And then I'll show you the next one. So now we're going to chain 1 and turn, just like with every other row. And now you're going to do 1 double crochet in each. So the first 5 are going to be easy. You're now going to do 20 stitches on the chain. And so you try to keep them evenly spaced, but you could always move them later, so it's not that important. They're really easy to move, so you can just go like that. Just keep going like that until you have 20 on the chain. So I have 20 on the chain, and I'm going to just spread them out a little bit more to make it go all the way. I'm going to do the last 5. And so now you're just going to keep keep going as usual. So chain 1, turn. So this is going to be our first row of the next 4. So I'm going to do, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4 here. So this is going to count as 1, and then I'm going to do 3 more stitches up here, and then I'm going to switch back to the yellow and then the pink. So 1 in each of the first 5, chain 20, and then 1 in each of the last 5. And this is going to be the neck hole, and then you do 1 stitch in each of these all the way across, and you should have 30 stitches in total both times. So I'm going to continue stitching. I'm just going to keep doing exactly the same thing I did here in reverse. So I'm going to basically go back down here, and once I have that, it's going to look like kind of like a poncho. And after that, I'm going to show you how to sew up the sides and then get started on the sleeves. Okay, so I've finished both ends. So I have the 5 rows of the pink and the yellow, 4 of the white, and then you have this row with a neck hole, so it's 5 stitches, 20 chains, and then 5 more stitches, and then I just mirrored the pattern on the other side. And now we're going to start with the sides. So I like to start, I mean, it really doesn't matter where you start. I'm just going to pick a corner here, and you're basically going to put 2 single crochets into each stitch. The goal is to have a row of single crochets up the side to make it easier to sew the ends together, because we're going to be sewing it like this. So we need that row of single crochets to make it a little easier. And normally I would try and use the same color for each one, but because this is such a small project, I'm just going to use orange to sew up the sides. So just like before, slip knot, and just kind of find a place to stick it in there. You don't need to chain. Just single crochet. You can try to weave the tail in, but I usually don't like to worry about it too much. Crochet. So I have now 4 single crochets between these 2 rows, and I'm just going to keep going like that all the way up to this end, and I'll meet you when I get to the other side. And so I've gotten to the end, so I have done 1 row of single crochets up, and I have, because I have 29 rows, then I put 2 in each, so I will have 58 single crochets in here. And the number of single crochets all depends on how many rows you have. So for the purpose of this pattern, this is what I have. And then now when you reach the end, you can simply slip that off and pull through. And that will be your row of single crochets, and you can weave in the tail if you want to. I'm not going to do it until I start actually sewing, but this is what I have. And so you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side, and it's good to start from the opposite corner, because that way your stitches are all going to be going the same way, but it doesn't really matter because you're going to be sewing it up, so the seam won't be very visible. So I'll start on this side, and then I'll meet you back up when I'm ready to sew it together. Okay, so now I've finished sewing up the sides, and I have a row of single crochets on each side. So I'm going to fold this so that the neck hole is at the top right here. And starting at the base, now you have a couple options here. Some people might prefer to use the hook to sew, but I am going to use use a tapestry needle. So I'm just going to thread my needle, and you don't tie a knot in here. And I just have, I already cut it off, so I have a predetermined length. And I'm going to take this, I can leave these in afterwards. And you just take that. It doesn't really look, it doesn't really matter how it looks on this side, because you're going, this is the inside, so we're going to turn it inside out once we finish sewing. So put it through the second one, put it all the way through, and just continue sewing them together. And you're not going to do it the whole side. You don't want to close it because we want to leave room for the sleeve holes. So when you're sewing this together, there's going to be 14 rows on each side, which means there's going to be 28 of these single crochets in here. So that means I am only going to sew together 17 of these single crochets because we want to leave enough room for the sleeve hole up here. So I'm going to do that on both sides, and I'll come back when I've finished sewing the sides together. Alright, so I finished sewing up the sides, and it's looking a little raggedy, but I will clean it up later. So you can see I've sewn up this part, and then I've left this open for the sleeve. And now you're going to turn it inside out. This is just how I prefer to do it. You don't have to turn it inside out if you don't really want to. But now you can see the stitches aren't quite as visible on the sides. And now you're going to start on the sleeves. So I'm going to keep the orange, and I'm going to do a regular slip knot as always. And start right around here. So basically you're just going to put one stitch in every single one of these around. You can guesstimate how many stitches you put in the sleeve. It really doesn't matter, just as long as it fits over the doll's arm. So you're just going to start with putting a stitch in every single one of these around, and then I'll show you what to do when we get back. Okay, so coming up close to the end, I have my first row. I've had one double crochet in each of the stitches. Almost there. So I'm going to, as I start to wrap up, so you'll notice that there is enough space in here for 2 more stitches. So I'm just going to put 2 stitches into the seam. In the beginning I did a chain 1, so I'm going to slip stitch into that, and I've completed my first row. For the second row, you're going to chain 1 and turn, and you're going to continue working 1 stitch into every single one for 5 more rows. So you're going to have 6 total rows of 1 in each stitch, and then I'll come back and we're going to start doing decreases, so I'll show you how to do that. So after I started making the sleeves, I realized that 4 rows is really sufficient for the beginning of the sleeve. So I'm just going to wrap this up, and of course you slip stitch, yarn over and pull through. Then we're going to chain 1, turn, and now we're going to start the decreases. So I don't have any specific special pattern for this, I'm just going to kind of wing it. So you start, the first stitch is going to be in that same one where you chain 1. Is that the correct verb? Chain 1? Anyway, so you do that. You're going to make 5 stitches, so 1 in each of the next 5. And once you have your 5, you're going to do a decrease. So the way you do this, you're basically going to turn 2 stitches into 1. So you start by yarning over, and remember I'm using a double crochet. You cannot do a decrease with a single crochet just by the nature of it, but you can do it with bigger ones. So you're going to start by yarn over, go through, hook and pull it up, yarn over and pull through the first 2 loops. Then you're going to yarn over again, go back into the next loop, yarn over and pull through, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, then yarn over and pull through the last 3. And now these 2 stitches have turned into 1. And you'll be treating it as 1 double crochet when you come back around on the next row. So I'm just going to continue to do this pattern all the way around this row. So 5 double crochets and then another decrease. And you're just going to keep doing that all the way around, and I will meet you back once we get back to the beginning. Okay, so I'm on my very last decrease. Now this row is going to be 5 double crochets and then a decrease in the next 2 stitches. So now that we've finished our decrease row, you can slip stitch back into the chain 1 from before, and then chain 1, turn, and then it's going to be another decrease row. So this time you're going to do 4 double crochets in a row and then a decrease. So I'll show you. Remember, the first double crochet is going right back into that same place where you had done your chain 1 and 4, and then we're going to do a nice little decrease. Beautiful. Then you just repeat the pattern, 4 double crochets followed by a decrease, and do that all the way around, and I will meet you back up at the end. So this is the end of the sleeve. So you can add, if you'd like, sometimes I like to do a row of single crochets around the very end just to sort of neaten it up, but that's a personal thing, and it's such a tiny project that I don't really want to try to attempt that. So now you basically just have to repeat that same pattern on the other side. So you're going to go all around here, you're going to do 4 rows of double crochets and then 2 rows of decreases. So first 4 rows, regular double crochet, 1 in each stitch, and then 5 double crochets followed by a decrease all the way around, and then 4 double crochets followed by a decrease all the way around. And that's it for the sleeve. Finish the sleeves. I decided that it actually looked pretty cool without any of the ornaments, so I just kind of kept it in a simple pattern, but you have the option to add, some people might want to add ribbing along like the hem or the collar, but I don't really feel like doing that, and it's a little tougher to do, especially with such a small hook and thread. So I can, and I'll link the original pattern that I'm basing it on in the description, so you can see how they do the ribbing in the end, and it looks pretty cool on a larger project. But yeah, this is basically how it turned out. It fits the baby just fine, and she looks a lot cozier now and not so creepy and weird. So I'm glad that we all enjoyed this moment together.